Hello, everybody. My name is Jeff, and today I wanted to talk about what a role queuing system might look like in Overwatch competitive queue. A role queuing system is where when each player clicks the button to add them to the competitive queue, they're asked what role they want to queue up for, either DPS or tank or support. Each role would have a separate SR and would need to be placed separately at the beginning of the season. The end of season rewards would be based on the highest SR that you achieved with any of the roles. So obviously, the first question you should be asking is, well, what does this accomplish for the Overwatch competitive experience? Well, one, players are guaranteed to get the role that they want. And this should reduce toxicity in two ways. One, by not forcing players to play an off role, there'll be less toxicity for players who are underperforming. I mean, we've all been into a game and we've been forced on to tank or DPS or support, and we don't play that role. And so as we're playing, we're not doing great. We're not performing at the SR level we should be at. And we get flamed for it sometimes, and that sucks. By guaranteeing players to get the role that they want, there'll be less of that in ranked. Two, there'll be less toxicity from players who are frustrated with the players who are playing the role that they would rather have. As in, we have all seen that DPS player who's gone into ranked, not been able to get DPS, and so they go tank, and then they flame the DPS players for not doing well enough, that they could do better. That happens, and by guaranteeing people get the role that they're best at, that should hopefully be almost entirely eliminated. The second thing that role queuing would accomplish for Overwatch is matches will have less variation in skill for two major reasons. Since each player will have a separate SR for each role, you won't be screwed by a support player deciding to be a DPS main, right? Whenever you switch roles, you have to get work back up to your SR level, and by keeping each role in a separate SR, there should hopefully be less of people getting into a match that they're clearly not qualified to be playing at with that role. And two, support and tank players especially are much less likely to get stuck in elo hell by having 3 to 4 DPS players insta-lock every game. That's, an unfortunate thing that happens a lot, but as a support player myself, as a support and tank player, I should say, I absolutely hate having games with 3 and 4 DPSs, and it really sucks, and it kind of feels like elo hell sometimes. It really does. Hopefully, with this kind of system, that would happen much less often. Also, vice versa can happen, although it's much more rare, where you have 4 support mains in a game, and then they're forced onto DPS, and that happens very less likely, so it's not like elo hell, whereas you get 3 to 4 DPS players every other game as a support main. The third thing that a role queuing system would accomplish for Overwatch is one-tricks and insta-lockers will have a far lower impact on the quality of a match. Since one-tricks generally force other people onto off-roles since they always pick the same character, by, allowing them to queue up for the role that they want, they're generally just going to have less of a negative impact on each game. And that's a very simple thing. So this is all wonderful, right? And, obviously role queuing would benefit the competitive experience a ton. But what's the catch? What are the cons? Well, honestly, I don't know. It enforces the 2-2-2 meta, the 2 DPS, 2 tank, 2 support. But that's pretty much always been the best meta, except for the few months when Ana was broken and every team had 3 tanks. But other than that, you've always had 2 DPS, always 2 supports, always 2 tanks. And honestly, I think that's the healthiest way for the game to operate in the first place. So enforcing that 2 tank, 2 DPS, 2 support meta, I think that's okay. It also means you have to play rank 3 times as much if you don't want to be a specialist player. But in all honesty, I don't see that as much of an issue. Most players in ranked, want to specialize. They want to get their main role every time. And for those that do truly want to flex, they can still do that. They just have to play more. It is unfortunate that it would marginalize a small portion of the Overwatch player base. But the only reason I flex right now is because I can't always get the role that I want. I think that's the majority of flex players. Now, in all honesty, I'm probably preaching to the choir here. Many people have already suggested this. Many people have already given great ways to possibly implement this, and I'm just another voice adding my, air out there. I'm just throwing it out there. But I think the reason we should keep talking about this is that if we keep asking, if we keep generating discussion about a role queuing system in Overwatch, Blizzard is going to take notice, and Blizzard can start up a dialogue with us, and we can talk back and forth. And I mean, there are reasons for Blizzard to be tentative about this. I mean, it's a massive change to the way the game is played right now. And while we do think there's very few cons to this, I mean, it's up to Blizzard to do their due diligence and investigate how it will impact the game, in all the ways. And so it'll take a while. I mean, this isn't going to happen overnight. This isn't going to happen at BlizzCon, or in the next few months. But it's something that if we keep talking about, if we keep pushing for this, if we keep asking for it, eventually Blizzard's going to have to do something about it. They're going to have to talk to us about it. And that's going to lead to changes. That will lead to changes for sure in the system that are going to be for the benefit of the competitive integrity of the game. That's all that I really wanted to say. Thank you guys for listening, and I really appreciate it if you dropped a like and a subscribe or just commented and you gave me feedback. That's all I have for you today, guys. I'll see you later.